Our next research file gives us a peek into the lives of young Kate and her mother, Jackie. The recent passing of Kate's grandmother finds the two traveling back to Jackie's childhood home. Many memories are shared and secrets are revealed. The innocence of a child and the supernatural are explored, while our conventional understanding of what it means to be safe and loved are tested in this file. Things are not always as they appear. So, join me as we explore the mother-daughter file and let the truth be revealed. Hello, listeners. My name is Professor Adontes Finch, and welcome to the Nightmare Trials.
I never really knew my grandmother. She lived 3 states away, and neither my grandmother or my mother liked to travel. It took a death in the family to make the trip, and it just so happens that that death was in fact my grandma. She was 76 years old. She had a bad heart and she died in her sleep. The neighbor who takes care of her lawn found her in her room. He had a key and went to find out if she wanted one more mow before the fall season, and he found her. The poor man had never seen a dead body before and threw up immediately. I'm not one to judge. I've never seen a dead body before either. So now my mom and I are in Nebraska, headed to my mother's childhood home to sort, clean, and trash what we could before the house was going to be sold. My mother pulled into the long gravel driveway up to the 2-story home. It was a dark wooden 1950s style home sitting on a lot of land. The neighbor sure had his work cut out for him on this property. Looking over the grassy yard, I didn't even see another house in any direction. Just grass as far as the eye could see, and a pond with a dock towards the back of the lot. I looked over at my mom staring at the house. At age 42, she was beautiful. Soft skin, bright eyes, and brunette hair. She had soft, mousy features, especially her nose, which I inherited. My mom sat motionless, but you could feel the rapid movements of her thoughts as she looked at the house that she hadn't been to in over 20 years. The brightness in her eyes wasn't so prevalent now, I noticed. I remembered visiting here once when I was young, walking on the grounds in the field behind her house, but I don't know if that's a real memory or what my mom told me of the visit. I believe that was the one and only time that I'd been here. I received cards from my grandma every year, nothing personal, just love Grandma Clara under the Hallmark-produced cards wording. I didn't know much about her other than her name was Grandma Clara. She was married to Grandpa Otto, my mother's dad. He was a roofer, and she was a homemaker. He died when my mom was 7, and from then on it was just the two of them. After Grandpa died, his life insurance policy allowed for Mom and my grandma to live off of. My mother left home around 18 and went straight into the medical field. She always knew she wanted to be a nurse to help people. Science was black and white, she said. Science and medicine make sense. And Nurse Jackie was the best of the best. And yes, she hated that show Nurse Jackie when it came out on TV. My mother Jackie was not like the character that Edie Falco played. She was ethical without being cold. She was good with her patients. She went into hospice care, and I was always impressed by that. Caring for a patient, knowing that they were going to die. But she was great at what she did, and she had always said she wanted to make sure no one was alone when they died, that they deserved to be as comfortable as possible and not alone. She also told me that bedside manner was important and how you talk to people matters. It seemed ironic now that we sat in silence on the drive here. We always got along great and never had issues talking, but this was different. Her mom had just died. We didn't speak too much over the trip here other than making food decisions and other driving details. Ever since she received a phone call from the local hospital, my mom seemed a little detached, and knowing their estranged relationship, I just wanted to give my mom space. "Kate," she finally said, "we should probably go in." The U-shaped drive led right up to the wooden porch. We went up the front steps and stood at the large front door. We had the key that the neighbor left in the mailbox for us, so we let ourselves in. "It looks so much smaller than I remember," my mother said as she walked into the foyer. Everything inside was dark. Only the afternoon light peeking in through the curtains gave us some light. Everything was wooden. Long, dark wooden floors stretched from the living room on our left to the dining room on our right. Glancing through the dining room was the entryway to the kitchen with more dark wooden cabinets. The house was old, but it was nice, well taken care of. Lots of bookshelves lined with all-sized old books, side tables with antique lamps, vases, bowls, area rugs, all collected from the last 50 years of decor. It was eclectic, to say the least. The smell of the place is what made the strongest impression. It felt like a slap in the face. Old lingering incense and oils mixed to smell like an apothecary shop. I forgot how truly strong the smell was. My mom shook her head. Strong aromas give her migraines, which is actually one of the reasons she loved being in the hospital. It's sterile, no strong essential oils, candles, or scents can be used. Me personally, I don't like the thought of other smells like bile, blood, vomit, pus, and everything else that comes with the hospital. But that's why I'm a chem major and not nursing. The smell was always so strong. I used to beg my mom to open the windows and cut down on it, but she never would. Her eyes scanned the room. She seems to have increased her candle collection over the years. She gestured to the living room. There were candles on every flat surface of the house, from shelves to tables. I walked through the living room looking at the photos on display. There were some photos of my mother growing up through various stages of her childhood. One photo showed her missing 2 front teeth. The next one, she was missing side teeth. And then, like magic, the next frame revealed 2 new big front teeth now in place. There was a photo on the side table by the floral print couch of a little girl in a cast. Little Jackie must have been about 7 or 8 here. A small smile showed on her face as she gave a thumbs up. Always the brave one, I laughed to myself. I found my mom's high school photo on the wall as I circled around the room. The photo looked a lot like my high school photo, actually. Then there was a single photo of me and my parents. I was young, maybe 3. It was before my dad left, so I had to be 3 or younger. It was a Christmas photo of us by a tree. I don't remember seeing this one, but then again, I don't remember seeing much of any. Most women don't tend to keep around a lot of photos of the man who abandoned them and their child, and I didn't blame her. Looking at the photo of my father, I could see the rest of my features. The round shape of his face, the deep-set eyes, and the curly hair that sat on his head were the same curls that I fought my whole life. I never asked much about my father. Mom never said a bad word about him, but I knew it was a sore spot for her. And understandably so. Being a single mother couldn't have been easy, I thought. She was always enough for me, and I wasn't old enough to know what I was missing when my dad left. I didn't have any feelings about it growing up. I knew we were going to be packing up these pictures and the lamps and the trinkets, but I liked looking at it all. I liked to piece together the life that Grandma Clara had, as she lived here alone for so long. My mom would frequently call the hospital here in town and get info about the hospital stays Grandma Clara had as her heart started to give out. Even though she would not talk to my grandma, she would talk to the healthcare professionals and keep tabs on her condition. Grandma Clara was not one to willingly go to the doctor, but having a heart attack in a grocery store will get you there pretty quick. After the attack, she had surgery for a pacemaker to be put in. And that's the last that I heard of anything, and that was about a year ago. I had just graduated college, and my mom told me once my grandma was out of surgery. I came back to the entryway of the house, and my mom wasn't there. I wandered up the creaky stairs and wondered if my mom ever tried to sneak out and how she ever could with stairs like these. Rounding the top of the stair and the banister off to the right were 2 bedrooms. Just knowing someone died in one of these rooms made the hairs on the back of my neck prickle up. I found my mom in the first bedroom, staring at the bed. It was left unmade, like she was just there. It had been a week since Grandma Clara died, and she had already been cremated with no funeral, per her wishes. My mom hadn't cried since we found out. "Mom, are you doing okay?" I eased into it. "Yeah, I'm okay. It's just that she was alone. She was alone for so long, and then she died alone." I put my arm around my mom and laid my head on her shoulder. I thought of all the patients my mom must have sat with in her career in hospice, helping those at the end of their life. "Let's get started in here so we can be done with it," she cut in. I felt bad for my mom, not only losing her mother, but losing the idea of her mom. She didn't get to have what she and I have. My mom didn't talk about growing up or her mom or even her dad. She always focused on me and whatever I had going on in my life, from orchestra to volleyball. I was always doing something and she was always there for me. I didn't know that my mom had that. I start with stripping the sheets and I move on to the side tables. The little brown side table with one drawer held reading glasses, hand lotion, and a touch lamp. I pulled open the drawer and it got stuck at about a 3-inch opening. I yanked it a bit more and it gave way. When it did, I noticed there was a small notch on the bottom of the drawer. My finger grazed the notch when the bottom leaned into the weight of my finger. A thin board popped up to reveal a false bottom. Inside the drawer was a small 4-inch homemade doll. It was crudely made from a white burlap fabric. The secret hidden doll was very creepy. It was a flat silhouette filled with fluff and 2 sewn-in black bead eyes. The top had woven-in brown hairs sticking out in all directions. It appeared to have tiny little baby teeth glued to the mouth area. They were fragile and cracked. The little doll had a small white string tied around its little arm, and there was one black-tipped sewing needle sticking out of the center of the doll. A voodoo doll, I thought. I was holding a human hair, human teeth voodoo doll that was hidden in my dead grandmother's side table. "What is it, Kate?" my mom called from the other side of the bed. I held up the doll in shock and watched her eyes widen. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Kate, hand that to me, please," she said calmly. My mom's shock sunk away, and then she just looked sad. "What is it, Mom?" "It's me," she said. "That doll is me." Why would my grandma have a voodoo doll of my mom? Why is there a string on the arm? It was wrapped up like a cast, I thought. The cast was on the right arm, and the string was on the right arm. What is going on? "Mom?" I asked hesitantly. "Mom, did Grandma Clara make that? Did Grandma make a voodoo doll of you? Did Grandma hurt you?" She gently took the doll and lightly touched the hair on the top of the head. Then she reached down, plucked the pin out of the burlap, and as she did, she began to cry. We made our way downstairs to the kitchen to make some tea. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table in silence, not drinking our steaming hot tea. After a few minutes, I tested the waters. "Mom, can you tell me what that is?" I gestured to the doll in the middle of the table between us. Her eyes were puffy from crying, but she remained still and steady as she spoke. "Kate," she said, staring into my eyes, "there are things you don't know about my childhood. Things I didn't want you to know, and I didn't want you to be a part of. I knew this trip would be difficult, but I thought I could avoid my past." Her eyes were darting quickly back and forth between my eyes. "I had a complicated childhood," she continued. "My mother and my father were polar opposites. Dad was the strong and silent type, and Mom saw herself as a free spirit, as a healer. She was strong-willed, and she always took matters into her own hands. My father was a hard worker, and although he wasn't very vocal, he tried to be a good dad, I think." She paused and took a sip of tea. She was no longer talking to me, but to herself as she stared off, reliving her past. I looked at the doll again, its beaded eyes staring straight up at me and the white fabric tied around the little arm. I didn't believe in magic or voodoo. With my mom being a nurse, we surrounded ourselves with medicine and logic. But looking at the sadness on my mom's face and the white fabric on the little doll's arm, I didn't know what to think. Mom, did Grandma use this doll to hurt you? She blinked her eyes and focused on my face. She hesitated before she said, "This isn't what you may think. These dolls, referred to as voodoo dolls, aren't like they are in the movies. Hollywood has depicted them as ways to hurt and control people, and although my mother did try and control things, she never meant to hurt me." She picked up the doll and rolled it in her hands as she studied its features. She stopped at the tied fabric on the arm. Different colors have different meanings. The white fabric is for healing. Others can help with passion or love. This tie here was meant to heal. She looked up at me again with glassy eyes, and tears began welling up. My dad loved me. He was quiet, but he loved me, and he didn't deserve... She shook her head as she cut herself off. She cleared her throat and started again. When I was 7, I wanted to go ice skating on our pond out back. My mother said no because she thought the ice was too thin, but my dad said it would be fine. It was Christmas morning, and my dad woke me up early and snuck me out of bed. She smiled to herself at the memory. We trudged out in the snow and checked the ice on the top of the pond. My dad said it was okay. He said to stay by the edges, but it was fine. I put on my skates and I took off. I didn't even feel the cold. I tried to do a jump and I fell. My dad and I laughed and laughed as I fell on my butt. As I sat there laughing, the ice started cracking under me. I looked to my dad on the shore for help. He didn't know what was happening, but he must have seen the fear on my face. He ran out on the ice after me, and I struggled to get up. A part of the ice gave way under the weight of my left hand, and my hand plunged into the icy water. My dad made it to me and grabbed my arm to pull me up, but he slipped back. As he fell back, my arm let out a crack, giving away to his pull. She furrowed her brows at the memory. He didn't mean to, he was helping me. We got off the ice and went back inside. I was in so much pain. I don't remember too much of the trip to the ER or much of the day. Back at home, the rest of Christmas was ruined. My parents weren't speaking. My dad constantly wore a guilty look on his face. I told him it wasn't his fault, and I put on a brave face for him, but he still felt awful. My mother gave him the silent treatment and focused on healing me. She made teas and burned candles and eventually made this. The doll was meant to heal me, Kate. She wrapped this around my arm to fix my arm. I remember how I'd found the doll with a black pin stuck through the heart. "And what about the black pin?" I asked. My mom stroked the center of the doll where the pin had been. "That was to heal my heart." She looked up at me again, face intense, eyes unblinking. My father died the next day, Kate. He had the accident. But I remember that day. I remember that day because my mom was home and my dad ran to the store. Dad never came home that night. I'd asked my mom where he was and why he was gone for so long. And she said that the roads were icy today and don't expect him to come home. She held my face in her hands and she told me I was safe now and he wouldn't hurt me again. I didn't fully understand what she meant. But the next day, they found my dad. His car had hit a tree. They said it was from the icy roads. How could she have known that, Kate? She had to have done something. That's why, as soon as I turned 18, I left. I couldn't be around my mother. I knew what she'd done, and I knew that she thought she did it for me. In her eyes, my dad didn't listen to her, and then he hurt me, and that was unforgivable. So this doll, this tie, that black pen was to heal me, to heal my heart from my father's death that she caused. I sat in silence, unsure of what to say. Did you ever tell anyone? No, I was too scared. When I grew up, my mom was always intervening in my life. People would suddenly stop talking to me. Boyfriends never stayed around long, so I spent a lot of time alone. I was healthy and protected, but I was alone. Once I moved away, I met your father in nursing school, and that was the first time I'd ever had anyone. And then he was gone. I stared in shock at my mother. She was raw, emotional, and talking about my dad. My dad who'd abandoned her and abandoned me when I was 3. Mom, why did Dad leave? She fidgeted with her teacup handle and then stopped, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. She raised her head and locked onto my eyes. Kate, there's a lot you don't know about your father. I made a mistake, my mom said. Sitting across from me in my grandmother's kitchen, my mom was making a confession. A kitchen that I never knew. I never had memories of making cookies together or picking flowers or learning to sew. I did that with my mother who was, as far as I knew, left alone by my father with their 3-year-old daughter. But I was learning a lot today. I stared at the voodoo doll, now back between us, lying face down. A small embroidered letter J was on the back of the doll. I hadn't noticed that before. The human hair and the teeth were pretty jarring, along with the truth that my mother had just revealed. My grandma Clara had murdered my grandpa Otto. She killed him and meddled in my mother's life. My grandma killed her husband, the father of her child, for what she believed to be protective. I also learned that my mother knew about this, and she knew her mom killed her dad. She kept that with her whole life. That black pin in the heart of the voodoo doll may have kept some pain away, but maybe not. But today was painful. I braved myself to listen to the next words out of my mother's mouth. My mother spent her life trying to protect me. My dad didn't listen to her. I got hurt and he died because of it. I was damaged my whole life because of her actions and her choices to protect me, and it was wrong. Yet I sit here in front of you realizing that I did the same to you. No, Mom, you didn't. You've been there for me. You're not Grandma Clara. No, Kate, I am. I haven't been truthful to you. I haven't told you everything because I wanted to protect you from the pain. My thoughts started spinning. What did she mean she was like Grandma? She didn't try and keep people away from me or cast spells or murder my dad, did she? Your father and I met in nursing school. I was young and fresh out of this house. She gestured to the eclectic kitchen around us. I fell for the first guy I met. He was handsome, kind, and gave me attention that I'd never had. And he was charming, she smirked. After we started dating, I found out I was pregnant. It had only been 3 months and I was so scared. He was scared too, but we decided it was best to get married. It seems stupid now. She shook her head, staring into the cup. But we were young and stupid. I knew I couldn't continue nursing school pregnant, so I quit. Roger stayed, and it was hard on our marriage. He was always busy and stressed about school, and I was so young and at home with a fresh new baby. She smiled at me. We started fighting. It felt like we were always fighting, until we just stopped. Roger found someone else, and I was alone again. He still came home to me at night, but it was late at night, and we were still married, but he wasn't mine. He was anyone and everyone else's. Even though he was a terrible husband, he was a good dad. He played with you so well. I do wish that you could remember that. My heart broke for my mother, and for myself. My dad cheated on my mom in a lonely marriage. This woman was everything for me, my whole support system, and I am just now seeing that I was everything for her. Mom, why did Dad leave? I know it must have been terrible for you, but he also had me, right? You said he was a good dad. Why did he leave? My mom closed her eyes and her chin began to quiver. I could almost feel her gathering the courage to open her eyes again. I reached out and grabbed her hand. At my touch, she opened her eyes and blurted, "He didn't leave you. He didn't leave me either." A tear ran down her face. "He was taken from us, baby." I tried to digest her words. Taken from us? I know it's confusing. I know this is a lot to put on you, but coming here, I see I can't keep things from you. You were all I have, and I love you, Kate, but it's my fault that he's gone. I was so fed up about the marriage and the other women. We came to visit Grandma Clara for Christmas. We came here when you were 3. It was all of us for the visit. You, your dad, and I. We all came for the first time since you were born. My mom was just obsessed with you. She loved you immediately and immensely. I know you didn't know her, but she wasn't cold or mean. She was just intense. She cared deeply and passionately, and she raged just as intensely. I told my mom everything on that visit. I didn't have anyone else, and you were so little. You and your dad were out walking by the pond out back, and I confessed to my mom. As my mom relayed the past, I thought of the photo in my brain and started connecting the pond, the tall grass, the curly brown hair. I had a flash of that hair blowing in the wind, and a smile. "Katie, come catch me, come and get me," a voice called. I was remembering my dad. I remembered the pond and running through the field. I blinked back tears and focused on my mother. Her tense blue eyes were so red, and I yearned to give her a hug. We were standing at that kitchen window, she pointed behind me to the double window over the sink. It looked right over the pond. I saw you running. I saw Roger in front of the pond just stop. I looked over at my mom just staring out, face rigid, full of anger. Her nostrils flared up and her breath got so heavy. I watched as your dad rose in the air. He floated over the grass and then hovered over the water. Then, in a snap, he was plunged down into the water. I ran out of the door as fast as I could, Kate. You didn't see him go in the water. You were distracted by some flowers. I ran out onto the dock, staring into the water, screaming Roger's name. Before I knew it, you were next to me, staring down into the water too. Blood rushed through my body, an adrenaline rush that came on so fast and so hard that it hurt. The pond, the water. My dad's hair in the water, eyes open, bubbles escaping from his mouth. I did remember. I could hear the screaming, and my mom grabbed me and was crying into my hair as we ran back up to the house. After that, we left, my mom cut in. I knew I had to leave and never come back. I had to protect you, Kate, she pleaded. I took my hand out of hers. I didn't know what to think. This was all too much. Why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you tell me? I was protecting you, Kate. I got up from the table and began to pace. My whole life, I thought my dad left me. He didn't leave me. He was taken from me. He may have been a lousy husband, and I'm sorry for that, but you brought him here. You brought him to this place and to her. She took your father, and you let him take mine, I yelled. I could feel my face getting hot. My blood was boiling. I never knew what happened with my dad, but I also never knew how much I cared. I had my mom, and she was always so great. Why was I so angry now? I waited for my mom to respond, but she just sat there with her head held low. Kate, I am so sorry from what I took from you, and I'm sorry for my weakness. I always said I never understood my mother, but then I became a mother. I just wanted to protect you from the truth and from the pain. Kate, there's one more thing I need you to know. Her hands were under the table. She lifted them with a small bunch in her hands. I walked closer to the table. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I didn't think my heart could take any more truth today. I was exploding with emotion. Then my mom laid a second crudely made little white burlap doll on the table. The same beaded black eyes, the same jagged baby teeth attached to the mouth. But the hairs on the top were different. The hairs were curly. I picked up the doll with a shaky hand. I turned it over and gasped at the embroidered letter K. I looked up at my mother. She stared into my eyes with guilt and sorrow. Then she laid down the black-tipped pin on the surface of the table. I'm so sorry, Kate. I am so sorry.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to have an extra bonus episode a month and access to the interdimensional radio station, subscribe to the Nightmare Trials either on Spotify or on Patreon. For the Patreon subscribers, you will need to type in patreon.com/the Nightmare Trials. The cost for the subscription is only $5 per month, and your contribution helps us continue with creating quality content. Further, make your way to Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram to add the Nightmare Trials to your socials. We like to do giveaways, post short video content, and we love to engage with our listeners. We will see you next week with a new episode. Until we meet again.